One of the things that I believe about real estate investing that I don't think is talked about enough, but I know Coach Carson brings the heat, is that I believe real estate investing is a skill. And because it is a skill, it can be practiced, it can be learned, and all of us can get better. What do you think, Coach? Is real estate investing a skill? Can it be learned, or you just God-given gifts when you were born?
Of course, yeah, it can be learned. I look at it. I played athletics forever. I still play basketball, but played college football. And you would drill like I was a linebacker, so the 4 or 5 like main movements you would make, you would do it every single day. You have to go through, get low and go through different footwork drills and handwork drill. So there's always like some kind of skill that you do over and over until it's just kind of innate. You can do it in your sleep. I don't think people look at real estate investing the same way. They think, oh, well, I've owned a house before, I could kind of do this. But you and I both know that some of the key skills, like actually buying properties is one of the most difficult parts about real estate investing. But if you looked at it like a sport and you said, what are the skills that I would need? What are like the sub skills I would need to buy properties well? You might break it down into, I've got to get really good at collecting a lot of potential opportunities, marketing. I've got to get really good at analyzing a deal quickly so that I can then make an offer on a property. And one of the most, like I study this when I'm coaching people. Nobody I coach, almost everybody is not making enough offers. They're coming to me like, well, I'm not finding any deals in my town. There's no deals. And I'm like, well, how many offers did you make in the last month? 2, 1. Like, not enough. Not enough.
Yeah, we got a volume problem. It's funny. I see the same thing, and I've seen it for so long that I actually did something. So in my community, I send out these gold cards called golden tickets when somebody gets their first deal. I then have these black cards for anybody that gets a second deal or more, right? You can get as many black cards as you want. But I ended up, to your point, having to create this purple card. This is for the person who's stuck, analysis paralysis, and they haven't written their first offer. I talk about disrespectful offers. I talk about running the numbers. And sometimes you just got to write the offer. Yep. Even like, let's just put numbers on it. Let's say the house is listed at $350,000. I'm just making stuff up. And let's say you've done the work and it only works for you at $275,000. That's what it works for you. And, let's say it's been listed for 45 days. Write the offer at $270,000 and see what happens. And sometimes you just need to know you're not going to die, right? You wrote an offer that was $80,000 below the list price. The seller is probably going to say no, but you don't know. Write the offer. And that's what I mean by it's a skill, because once you start to dial in your buy box, as I call it, you'll start to know where the numbers work. And you could, like, when you really get into this 60 or 90 days of really looking at your tight buy box, you should be able to write an offer, or you should be able to know the number that works in 5 minutes or less.
Yep.
And write the damn offer. Just write it. It's okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of the things that might be in people's head that are keeping them from doing it. Why are they not making the offer? And I'll throw some out on the table. Maybe you throw some out too, Mike. One of them, I think, is this limiting belief that nobody will ever take that offer. Nobody will ever take it. It's like, but here's the way I've heard it. Like when I have the conversation, there's this voice in your head that says, well, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't sell it for that price. So why would anybody else? And I'm a very logical person. I'm reasonable. Now, so if I were to buy it for less than a price that I would do, I'm ripping somebody off. It's a bad deal for them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's certainly some of that. There's certainly a limited belief. I mean, I call them disrespectful offers on purpose because I want people to kind of feel it. But here's the deal, folks. The buyers make the market, right? Sellers put out a number they're hoping to get, no doubt. But until they have a buyer, there's no deal. And I don't know if people are paying attention, but we're in a buyer's market. The seller's market's dead and buried. With mortgage rates over 7% for owner-occupant and closer to 8% for investors, it's a buyer's market. Sellers could have had the property on the market for 45 days and not had a showing for 30 days. Some sellers will simply take it off the market. They'll let the listing expire. But some of those sellers are motivated. And it gets a lot easier to find a motivated seller in a buyer's market.
100%. And the other thing is you have to have the mindset that you offer a service to the market, and that's really why
Correct.
I've mentioned that limited belief. To believe that you are not helping the person. Like I want to be in a business that I help people.
Yeah,
And
me too.
if you believe that every offer you're making just because it's a lower price, it's disrespectful, yes, because that's not what they wanted. But that doesn't mean somebody won't take that and it'll be a good thing for them, because
Yeah.
we are a wholesale buyer. That's the service. Like every market you have, whether it's selling shoes, whether it's selling houses, whether it's selling money, there's
Mhm.
always a wholesale market and there's a retail market, and we are in a wholesale
Correct.
buyer. We buy it at, we are the liquidity that the market needs. Like even in 2007, 8, and 9, there was a
Mhm.
lot of investors who came in and said, I don't care what the price of the house is, we'll resell for. I'll just buy it to rent it. And
Mhm.
that was the bottom of the entire market for the Great Recession. Well, that's
Mhm.
what we do too. We do it at all times. There's a market of lots of people who are willing to buy. We investors are the wholesale buyers, and so you just need to like take the emotion out of it and just say, I'm the wholesale buyer. This is what I can pay. And then sometimes on the other end of that, the agent and the seller are going to say, well, you know what? I'm just ready to wholesale it. Let's go. Like, let's sell
Yeah.
it. And you happen to be there at the right time. That's the game. You make 10 of those, 20 of those offers, and each one of those works for you. Then you buy a deal here and there. That's the way it works.
Here's the other magic I would tell anybody that I was coaching or advising. The money's in the follow-up. I have never that I can remember, but I'm pretty sure never gotten a deal on my first disrespectful offer. I've gotten most of my deals, disrespectful offers, 25, 30, 35, 40% below list on the third or fourth follow-up.
Hmm.
So what I would tell someone is, great, you wrote 2 offers. They both got turned down flat, no counter. Put it in your calendar to follow up in 7 to 10 days, because that seller is going to do one of a couple of things. They're going to sell it to somebody else, they're going to take it off the market, or they're going to negotiate with you eventually.
Yep.
Those are the only 3 outcomes.
Yeah. So if we're keeping track here, what are the skills we've talked about? Number one, the mindset that you are helping people, like have that, believe that you have a service. Number two, are you willing to, make the follow up? Yeah. Are you willing to follow up after you make the offer? I would also add, and this is like something I've just noticed recently, there's often like an over analysis, kind of an analysis paralysis that happens early on. And the way I would explain it is that real estate is like, it's the best way to buy something, and that you can stair step your way into a deal.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the first offer you make is, I've got to come up with a $500,000 to buy this property. It's, I'm committing to putting it under contract, to do my due diligence, and here's an earnest money offer. And so like there's this like kind of baby steps of risk that you take.
Mm-hmm.
And so I find that a lot of people overanalyze the deal. They analyze the repair cost and all these other like variables that go into making an offer. They analyze them as if they're about to close on that property, instead of just saying, all right, I'm going to make an educated guess here. I think, here's what I think needs to be done. I'm going to do a rounded up estimate of what the repairs would be. Or if it's just a huge rehab, I'm just not going to make an offer on that one because I'm not up to that, or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what you do, Mike, because I make these very rough, educated guesses. I don't make like a super precise first offer. I just get a rough guess, and I make the offer, and that allows me to make more offers. And that's something I think a lot of people who are new to the offer game don't really realize what's actually going on with a more experienced investor.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And the other thing I would tell folks, again, I'll go back to Mike Zuber 2003 or whenever I bought those first couple of houses. I was looking at such a tight buy box. I was only looking at 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage homes. Why is that important? Because once I knew those 2 configurations, I knew rent, because I was looking at one zip code. It didn't matter where it was. The rents were going to be within $25 of anything. So my rent number was relatively known. And then what I did is I just did A, B, C for condition. A meant turnkey, no make ready. B meant, carpet, paint, $3,000-$4,000. These are older numbers. And then C was, some kind of full remodel, meaning a bath or a kitchen. And I just got ballpark numbers for all of those. And again, it's about speed, right? Like if I had to, and again, I was investing in a market that was 3 hours away. I could pay my property manager or a real estate agent to go through and go, tell me, is it A, B, or C? Right? And then I have my numbers. And it is absolutely about speed, but it's also about focus. Like I couldn't have done this in Fresno if I was looking at all types of housing in all types of all zip codes.
Yep.
And, it's just, you have to focus.
Yeah.
If you're looking at Dallas, Texas, in Cleveland, Ohio, in Miami in the beginning, you're crazy. You can't learn German, Chinese, and French at the same time. It's not the way to do it. You got to get
Yeah.
focused.
Yeah, that's why buy bucks is so critical. You talk about it all the time. I do too. That it is the focusing of what you're buying. So I love it when you buy a 3-2 house with a 2-car garage, this 1980 and newer. Like then you can now narrow down the scope of your rent estimates, your repair estimates, but if you're I see this all the time. Is like number one, people don't have a buy box, and then number two, they're like, well, I'll take a good deal if it's a short-term rental. It's a good deal. I'll take it. If it's a long-term rental, if it's a rent by the room, it's a good. They have all these strategies on the table. It's like no. Like you've got to focus because. For a lot of reasons, but number one, so you can actually like make confident offers. Because if you aren't focused, I would rather you over focus. I'd rather you be so narrow that I'm like, okay, let's broaden this a little bit. Like, but I never see that. Nobody's ever too narrow.
No, nobody's.
Everybody, they're like, I'm going to buy in the whole Bay Area. I'm going to buy all in all of the upstate of South Carolina. Like, really? Okay,
really?
That's like a million people in the this one area. So focusing is another skill. It's like, and all these you can practice. Back to our original point.
Yeah,
like, I love I've just lately been getting in the weeds of real estate investing, which is fun for me because I've been doing this 21 years, and sometimes you kind of forget the things that you've learned. And so one of the coolest things about being a teacher, what you and I do, is that you get to see it with fresh eyes, and you're like, oh, okay, people are missing step 2, 3, and 4 because it was just kind of second nature to me. But no, you got to focus. No, you got to make quick offers. No, you have to have this follow-up system so you get it done. And if you put these skills together, it's not a mystery that to buy houses. It's not this thing that people, oh man, the market's not good to me, almost like as if it's controlling everything. Like no, you have control over the process. You don't have control over whether that one person says yes or no, but you have control over whether you make 10 offers in the next 2 weeks or whether you sit on your hands and just kind of overanalyze a deal for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it really does come to it is just like golf. It is just like language and music and all these things. It's focus and it's daily execution. I forget who it was. I think it was Tom Billier. It might have been Jesse Itzler, one of those two guys. I always get them confused. Said, if you want to be in the top 1% or top 5% of anything, practice 18 minutes a day. So what do I tell people? 20 minutes, 7 days a week. Look at your buy box, note the differences. The more focused you are, the more disciplined you are, the faster all these numbers will come out. There's not that many variables. If your focus is a 3 or 4 bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, once you figure out the rent in that little area, it's the rent plus or minus $25. Once you figure out the conditions, it's the number. It's focus and daily discipline is where the magic happens. And again, it's a skill. Real estate investing, writing offers, getting great deals is a skill. Everybody watching this can do better at it.
Yep, 100%. So I think what I'm fired up about today, Michael, is I want to recruit people. Like we're like a sports coach. We're recruiting you to join the skill, the skills of being a good real estate investor. Like don't just watch this passively. Don't just like talk about it and complain about it. Like actually commit like a sport. Like you are getting into the sport of real estate investing. You're going to watch Zuber's channel to learn skills that you're going to then apply every day. You're going to watch my channel to learn skills because you're in the sport of real estate investing and you're in it. Like my community is called Rental Property Mastery. Like I'm in it for mastery. Mastery is like committing to the long term of like, I'm not just going to be an athlete today or a real estate investor today. Like I'm in it for the next decades. Like I'm in this thing because I want to be the best that I can be. And if you take care of that, like every sports coach knows this, is that the other team's going to do what they're going to do. I'm just going to take care of me. And every day I'm going to do my 20 minutes and I'm going to get a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. I'm going to buy one deal at a time and then I'll buy another deal. And you know what? That can build an enormous, amazing life just focusing on that. So pretty cool.
Yeah. Folks, if you haven't signed up for Coach's newsletter yet, I don't know what you're doing. You've got to go get it. CoachCarson.com/newsletter. You won't regret it. Closing thoughts, Coach.
Let's go do it. Let's go make some offers. We're in the buyer's market. I think you hit the nail on the head. I want to see people making deals, getting those cars from Michael, letting me know that you're buying some deals. That's what fires me up.
Exactly. Thanks, buddy.